I had literally cried in front of more random stranger men than I had my ex-husband. Okay, a little exaggerated, but not really. It's actually pretty wild how many times men that barely knew me saw me cry. Let's get into it. This is Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. I am so happy you're here. I'm sure many of you that have known me, especially, are waiting for something a little more vulnerable, or at least might want that side. I think we all can appreciate when someone's vulnerable. So I'm going to go there a little bit with this one because I want to show the other side of the highlight reel, which looks like, oh my goodness, she left Utah and moved to Tennessee, and her life looks so magical and wonderful and perfect. Okay, maybe it doesn't look perfect, but it looks like I'm having a great time, which I am. And I'm so very grateful for everything and all the opportunities and all the people I've met. But along the way, there has definitely been a lot of tears. And I realized I really got into my like soft girl era when I was all alone because I was so much in my feelings. And this wasn't like, cry, please love me. It was more like, I am so messy and I don't know what I am doing. So I just am going to cry because I'm just making these decisions that the previous me, the wife me would never make. And now I'm just making them and they feel very foreign to me. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. So I will tell you, one of the first times I remember just unexpectedly crying, thinking that I had my life together. When I was still in Salt Lake, a great friend of mine, love her to death, was getting married. And this wedding was going to be the first wedding that I had went to by myself. Literally, I could not remember the last wedding that I didn't have my ex-husband there. Literally couldn't remember. That's how many weddings that I went to with him. It was so many that I don't honestly. I think it was my friend Brooke, her first marriage. I went with no, I still brought a friend. So, anyways, it's just been a long time. So, I had another friend of mine say, and I had met this girl recently, but she had said, you should probably be aware that when you go to your first wedding after your divorce or separation at this time, it's pretty hard. And I was like, nah, it'll be fine. Like, I'm good. It was my choice. I'm happy about it. I'm good. This at the time was we separated the end of June 2022. So her wedding, I believe, was September, end of September. So it only been not that much time. So, but in my mind, I'm like, I got this, like one would do. So we get to the wedding, absolutely beautiful. Drinks are flowing. We're sitting there in the sun watching the most beautiful bride come down the aisle, and her husband are exchanging vows. And there's a part of my inner dialogue that's like, realizes that it's being negative Nancy in my head about weddings, like good, you know, which I had never been that girl before. But then I pushed that aside and just kind of sat there and watched these two people who love each other dearly, just being so excited for their big day. And I don't know why, but after the ceremony, there was some pictures, all that fun stuff. I went to go to the restroom and I just started crying. And I was sitting there just bawling, and it was just so, like, embarrassing because thinking back and I don't even know what I was crying about. I don't know if it was just, "This is my first wedding without someone," or him actually, because it's not like I'd went to lots of weddings with someone else. I'd only been to weddings with this one person that I thought I was spending my life with, and now I'm at this wedding, and he's not there, and it's a wedding, and I don't know what to do with myself. So what did I do? Of course, what any random I don't even know what to call myself on this one, alright. Let's say what any one too many shots and beers in tears would do. Go out on the dance floor in your little black dress and leave with the best man. Can I even say that? Because I don't know who that is, but that was a story. And I remember that night having a great time and then again crying. Yes, in front of a stranger, just crying. And I don't know how I get so lucky to meet these men that are somehow amazingly understanding because all I've ever heard from a lot of, well, not all I've ever heard, but I know a lot of women, the dialogue is like, oh, men, they're crap, blah, blah, blah. That has not been my personal experience. I have been, okay, don't get me wrong. There's been some stories of some questionable things, but for the most part, I feel like the men that I've interacted with, I think are amazing. And I'm just like, gosh, am I just like getting lucky? I'm not saying I'm trying to marry them or fall in love, but I don't think they're anything other than just figuring out life and being a good person and, fun just like me. And this sweet, sweet man is just coddling my tears like he knows me. And I'm just like, "I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm here. I am obviously a wreck." And he's probably like, "What is even happening? This is not what girls act like." I literally don't even know how this was happening. It was so awkward and embarrassing, and luckily, he didn't live in Utah, which I guess didn't matter long because I wasn't gonna be living there, but I was just like, "What is happening?" So, after the tear session that pretty much ruined the night, I'm sure, from his perspective, I, do the Uber of shame or whatever you wanna call it, which was new to me, where you're leaving in the morning somewhere that you don't live with I mean, I had a little black dress. Luckily, I also had some Nikes to change into, but, I didn't wear that dress and Nikes in the morning, like, it was 7:30 AM. So, that was a first for me. So, I cried at the wedding, then I got too drunk, I danced way too much, and girl, if you're listening, I love you. And I'm sorry that I was messy at your wedding. And yeah, that was probably my first, like, "Who are you?" Okay, not my first, but that was a big one where I cried multiple times in one night. So, I haven't been to another wedding since, but I'll tell you, it was rough. It was rough. And then when I think about other times that I've cried, enter me coming to Nashville myself. I'm here with my friend. She's here in the Airbnb with me for the 1 week, and then I have 30 full days in East Nashville. And at during those times, actually, I did go on one date with someone I met in Printer's Alley, but he ended up being very not for me, and we'll just leave it at that, and maybe we'll revisit that again. But he wanted to come back with me, and I was like, no." And so no one had ever been to my Airbnb in East Nash. Then I had an Airbnb in Hendersonville, and at this point in time, it's been 30 days, I'm in a new state, I don't know anyone, I don't have any friends, I'm really not interacting, and it's weird because I know that people talk about, like, hugs are really important, like, physical touch, like, humans connect like that, and, like, being married, I obviously would hug my husband, but I'd hug all of our friends. We had a big friend group back home that I loved, and it was amazing, and just I literally left some of the most amazing friends ever, and I lost some of them in the divorce as well, some of my favorite guys that I ever known, but I was always physical touch, right? I always had that, and then weirdly, I come to Tennessee, I don't know anyone, I'm not just hugging strangers, which maybe I should, like, set up a booth to give free hugs for that reason because there's probably other people out there that need them, and I never knew how much I needed one until I moved to Tennessee. So it's like 30 days. I mean, I might have hugged that date, but it's like 30 days. Now I'm in this Airbnb in Hendersonville, and it'd been so long since I really had any kind of, like, physical touch with someone. And 30 days doesn't sound that long, but, like, to not even hug someone, it'd been weeks and weeks, like, over a month. So I remember I go to the Luke Combs concert at Nissan Stadium. Bought a ticket, I went by myself. That could be a whole other episode of just how many concerts I've went to by myself and the people I've met, and it will be. But this one particular was Luke Combs. Met some really cute girls from New Jersey when I got there. We took pictures together, had a great time. When I got to my seat, I met this other couple that they were all there from California, and she was sweet. I still talk to her. Shout out, she knows who she is, realtor in California. But she and I were talking, we're having a great time, and I leave the concert and I end up running into this guy, and he was in town. He was in the military, but he was in town. I think he lived in DC, but he was in town because I guess the president was in town. I don't know, some story like that. But anyways, so I ended up going on this random downtown adventure with him. And I know what you're thinking, like, when you listen to my stories, you will know that I probably do some things where you're like, that's not safe. You don't even know them. And I know. I know. Sorry, mom. Sorry, everyone. Cat's out of the bag. I kind of go off energy and make decisions about people, and I don't really know them, and I get it. So, full disclosure, that will happen a lot throughout my stories. But needless to say, him and I adventure around downtown, have a great time. And I'm feeling him out enough, trusting him enough to be like, okay, do you want to come back to my Airbnb in Hendersonville? But if you know me, I have this little thing where I literally tell people that I am down to have a sleepover, but I don't want to hook up. Gosh, this is so vulnerable. Saying it out loud just feels like really cringy, but I'm speaking my truth. So here we are. So, anyways, I tell him, like, if you want to sleep over, that'd be cool, but that's all it's going to be. So he was like, yeah, sure. Totally felt that he was on board with that. So we went back to, he got an Uber. We go back to my house that I was Airbnb in Hendersonville. And We start talking. I learn he grew up in Alaska because his family, like, he's telling me a lot of stories of his life, and I'm just listening. And it's so interesting to me because I'm like, I love hearing like men's stories. And I feel like, and I say men just because I feel like sometimes men and men don't always ask each other a lot of questions. Like, I remember when I was married, I'd be like, "Oh," to my ex, like, "Oh, well, what did Brandon say about this?" Like his best friend. And he'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't ask," or "He didn't say." It's like you literally break the guys like break up with their girlfriends. And then his buddy's like, "Oh, you guys broke up?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then it's like, "Well, why? What happened? What was the story?" Nope, no details. That's it. So, what I notice is that sometimes when I talk to men and I ask a lot of questions, maybe they could be annoyed, but most of the time, they're not. They're not used to someone asking them so many questions about them that it kind of feels, or I get the vibe that it feels nice that someone kind of wants to know stuff about their life. So he's telling me his whole life story and I'm listening. And it's finally, we should go to bed. And the nice thing too about the combo is all that detail isn't that romantic because you're talking about like sometimes I get them down the path of like their childhood and all of these things. So by then it's like they're not really trying to smash, they're just chilling. Like, oh, this girl's my friend. I don't know. So this particular night, I just wanted a friend. And well, many of nights actually. But in this instance, I remember, we decided to go to bed and he's cuddling me and I just start tearing up. And it's not this like, ooh, like sobbing. It's just like this tearing up, like someone hasn't held me in so long. And I was used to that and I didn't have it anymore and I miss it. I just miss someone holding me. So I cried. And I think he didn't really know what to say or do. And then he just said, "It's okay." And we went to bed. And it's so embarrassing to even say it out loud because I don't know if this is like, I'm just this weirdly crazy girl that does this or other people are like this. But I'm kind of like thinking that I'm just the crazy one that I don't know. But yeah, I learned that like usually men are pretty like kind to tears, especially when they know they didn't cause them. It's just like you're just their presence they just want to protect, I guess. And I love that about men. It's probably my favorite thing about them. But I don't cry for them to protect. I cry because I'm literally a baby and I don't know how to process emotions after I changed up my whole life and everything's new to me and I'm just trying to figure it out. So I cry. So those were two crying instances. I've cried at Red Door twice now and Losers once. These are bars in Nashville. And the crying is not like, "Oh, I love him," or what it's like stupid stuff. Like, the Losers incident was a girl was mean to me, and I didn't know what to say. She was just being rude, and I just stood there and cried. Like, okay, I lied, I cried twice in Losers. One time, the bartender at Losers just asked me, "How was your day?" or "How are you doing?" And I just cried. But again, it's not like this, "Oh, look at me." It's like tears are just falling down my eyes. I'm literally so this is the state I'm in on the other side of, "Oh my gosh, it looks like she's having such a great time. She's having so much fun." I do wanna add a disclaimer though, that pretty much everyone I meet in this town I think is amazing and not mean. That was like a one isolated incident with someone that I learned later. like has a tendency to be cruel to many people, and this wasn't about, I knew it wasn't about me, but it's not just me. So I'm saying that all to say is that I've learned through this that when people are mean to me, I don't know what to say, so I just cry. And when I'm overwhelmed with emotions, like I was at the wedding or laying next to someone after and having them hold me after not having physical touch for over a month, literally, not even a handshake. You got to think, I'm working from home. I'm not even interacting with humans outside of like going out. And even then, I was just keeping to myself and working a lot. So I didn't have a lot of interaction. So, all that to say is that there's some very vulnerable stories and things that I've done in this time frame that have reminded me that it's okay to be messy. There was no way I could have kept it together then. There's no way. I'm in such a better place now. And I'll just throw in this because today is 30 days where I haven't drank alcohol. And I'm not saying I necessarily had a problem, but I'm saying that I Nashville just brought that a whole other level. Everyone is out all the time. And through the separation, I drank way more box wine than I ever needed to and whiskey. And because I think I just didn't know what else to do with my mind because I didn't know what else to do with myself outside of like working. And it was just all new. And so now I'm in this like a little bit new headspace, which I'll be honest, like even though it's been 30 days, I'm ready for a glass of wine or a whiskey buzz. But I see so much more clearly now. And the girl that was freshly separated, going through the divorce process, and then moving alone to Tennessee, she did not know what to do with herself. And she was definitely not regulating her emotions. She was losing her mind, losing her mind. And so there'll be a lot of stories about how I came out of completely losing my mind, but enjoying it and seeing it as a positive. If I did not have those sad, hard times, I would not be in the mindset I am today, and I would not change this mindset for the world. I'm so grateful for how I feel today. And so I hope that somehow gives you, and even if you're not dealing with something exactly similar, but if you're dealing with anything difficult or hard and you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to get on the other side of this, or I'm just so over this. And it just, why is this happening? I firmly believe that those times teach you and show you so much about who you are and where you want to be that it just is not worth trading most of the time. It's a necessary trial to lead you to the path that you're supposed to be on. I truly believe that. So when you're wandering the wild mess, and I'll leave it at this, you're hiking up the mountain and there's these boulders in the way and you're like, what is going on? I'm just trying to get where I want to go and there's these boulders and I have to pivot and move. All of those things, all of the messes, you got to throw the rocks around, climb a little more, all those things. When you get on the other side, that's preparing you for even more adventures coming ahead. Like that needs to happen for you to get where you need to go. I promise you. So, as many tears as I've cried, and it's been embarrassing, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't. I'm sure that the people that had to witness it, especially The men that barely knew me were like, "That was weird." But, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just not that serious, right? It is what it is. We move on. So thank you for letting me be vulnerable with you. I'm easing in to sharing some of my most vulnerable stories. I'm seeing how I feel about being this honest about my mess. And for some people, maybe this isn't that messy. I can't imagine who doesn't think that's messy to cry like that at a wedding. I don't know. Maybe you have your own stories of this, but this is what feels vulnerable to me. And I want to share it because I hope that you can see that everything isn't and wasn't perfect. And it's not like you leave this marriage and go, oh my gosh, it was my choice. Now I just love it all. And I'm like gonna meet the man of my dreams and be happy forever and move away to Tennessee and not think about anything else and just be like perfectly content with my decision. Because there were so many times I thought about going back. And every mess kept me heading up the right path to staying the course. So remember that the next time things get hard, but you know you're going where you need to go. Just keep going and you'll be so glad you did. Thank you so much for listening and wandering this wild mess with me. Until next time, remember you matter. And this was Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan.